Well, howdy y'all. Welcome to Once Upon a Time in Texas with episode number 111. I'm your host, Michael Mitchell. Sorry that I've been missing in action, I guess, for the past couple of weeks. Really, it just comes down to it was the end of the school year. My wife's school, McNeil Middle School here in Wichita Falls, is closing down. And they are moving it to the former high school known as Ryder. So Ryder High School will now become Ryder Middle School. And she's got an enormous amount of crap that had to be moved here to the house. And then there's a bunch of stuff that had to be boxed up out there to get prepared to move all the school district stuff to the new middle school. Anyway, it was a big pain, but we got it done. Everybody's happy. You know, we've got other stuff coming up too. My oldest daughter just went and did state solo and ensemble with her saxophone and her team of saxophone players. And they did well. Making it to state is a big deal. And they're ranked, 1, 2, and 3, basically, is kind of what your grade is. And 3 means you need to do a lot of work. 2 means good job. It sounds very nice. And in this case, a 1 is almost kind of like a unicorn. It's hard to get. They are judged by current or retired University of Texas music professors who basically judge them based on like college senior level professionalism. And so to go to state and get a 2 is pretty danged amazing, which is what my oldest daughter Lorelai and her ensemble did. So anyway, it's just been a wild couple of weeks. I've had a lot going on with city revitalization. We've put up several things in front of the city council lately and gotten approved. We've got another one coming up next week. Just things are really booking along. Loans are picking up. I've got 6 or 8 that I'm working on and in process right now. So it's just been really busy, and I have not, unfortunately, been able to get to this podcast. So for those of y'all that listen, I apologize profusely, but I hope you understand. It happens every now and then. So I am back on some place names this week that I found interesting, and another location here in Texas that was the biggest of its kind at the time. So we're going to talk about that. Before we jump into this podcast, as always, I want to thank our sponsors, me and Victory Home Loans. I know there are tons of people moving to and in Texas and Oklahoma, and I know a lot of y'all do too. So if y'all know someone moving to Texas or Oklahoma, or someone who needs to refinance, maybe do a cash out to pay for kids' college or do some remodel work, even a older person or couple that are needing a little bit of extra help in their golden years, I can do reverse mortgages, land, all that kind of stuff. Send them my way. TheMichaelMitchell.com, TheMichaelMitchell.com. I'd love to help them out and see what we can get going, help people get into homes of their own and get that American dream. And of course, remember, when you work with me in Victory Home Loans, I sell dreams, not mortgages. So where did this week's idea come from? Well, it's totally random, of course, as it usually is. Went to Austin this week for the state solo and ensemble stuff. Well, this last weekend, Memorial Day weekend. And some of these were just things that pop up. And I do read and look at a lot of these Texas history websites and Facebook pages. One of them was Backroads of Texas, which is always awesome. And so they were just kind of random. And I thought, oh, that sounds cool. And that sounds cool. And that sounds cool. So I thought, what the heck? Sounds like it's a good time to do a podcast. So the first was a Facebook post that someone had put up, and I thought, hey, I know that place. I used to work out in that area when I worked for the Boy Scouts out in West Texas. I had no idea that it had some historical significance. Never knew. Its official name is Squaw Teat Peak, and it's located in West Texas right off of I-10, kind of east of Fort Stockton. It has some other names that people call it, like Nipple Mountain or Nipple Peak, because of its, well, shape, honestly. And it does. It looks like a breast and a nipple. Anyway, I found some more information about it on texasbeyondhistory.net. And here's what it has to say, because I really thought this was interesting. And I wished I'd paid a little more attention to Squaw Teep Mountain / Nipple Peak, whatever, when I was working out there. So, it says, this is from texasbeyondhistory.net. The colorfully named Squaw Teep Peak site is located in central Pecos County in the shadow of Squaw Teep Peak, a prominent cone-shaped limestone hill rising some 300 feet above the surrounding desert floor. It is known for its wickiup and teepee rings, all that remain of shelters constructed by prehistoric hunter-gatherers at the site hundreds, perhaps even thousands of years ago. Although the site is sparsely vegetated and in some areas lying on bare bedrock, the area supports an abundance of natural resources. A variety of useful plants, including lechugila, sotol, cacti, and mesquite, are all present today, as they likely were in the past. Flint resources were also abundant in nearby natural outcroppings. Whether drawn to the site by these resources or the dramatic peak looming overhead, prehistoric hunter-gatherers returned to Squaw Teep Peak again and again over a period of as much as 6,000 years. Squaw Teep Peak was first examined by the Archaeological Section of the State Department of Highway and Public Transportation, now known as TxDOT, during mitigation of Interstate Highway 10 in the summer of 1974. The planned expansion of the highway cut across the northern limits of the site, and a large burned rock midden, which is kind of a ring, was located within the proposed right-of-way. TxDOT conducted a surface collection of the area and excavated the midden and its immediate vicinity under the field direction of Gary Moore. Wayne Young and Wayne Bilyeu of TxDOT revisited Squaw Teep Peak in early 1980 to make a topographic and feature map of the portions of the site that had not been destroyed by the highway expansion. Much vital information had been lost since the excavation, and Young hoped to tie together field records from the earlier work and the new data derived from the mapping project in order to produce a meaningful report on the site. He published the results of this effort in 1981. The most important features identified during the investigation of Squaw Teep Peak are 14 clusters of stones interpreted as wickiup and teepee rings. They range from 2 to 4.5 meters, or roughly 7 to 15 feet in diameter, and most are roughly circular shape. The stones in the 9 wickiup rings, those less than 3 meters in diameter, would have been used to bolster the branch supports of small brush shelters. The 5 larger rings may have supported large wooden poles for tall, hide-covered teepees. Wickiup and teepee rings are not common in most of Texas and rarely appear in numbers seen at Squaw Teep Peak. One of the only other sites reported in Texas with such a large number of stone rings is the Infierno site in the lower Pecos region. Infierno has many more stone rings than Squaw Teep Peak. They have 120 wickiup rings and 7 teepee rings in all. Based on the large size of the teepee rings, the site was likely occupied during the historic period when native peoples had access to horses and could not transport much larger wooden support poles from camp to camp. So in the Big Bend area and eastern Trans-Pecos area, numerous structural remains related to the Cielo complex have also been documented, although apparently serving the same support function. Stone circles of Cielo structures often had several courses of rocks, clearly showing that these were wall bases. Squaw Teep Peak also contains 4 burned rock middens the trash heaps resulting from ancient cooking events. The largest measures 11 by 13 meters, roughly 32 by 42 feet, and is actually composed of 6 smaller overlapping middens. The other 3 middens are considerably smaller, ranging from 6 to 6.5 meters in diameter, so 19 to 21 feet. These middens, consisting of fire-cracked rock no longer suitable for containing heat, ash, and other debris removed from the cooking pits, were probably used to bake starchy plant foods like sotol and, I can't hardly say it, lechugia in large quantities. They would have begun to accumulate after anywhere from a few to a few dozen cooking events over a period of decades or thousands of years. Other features recorded at Squaw Peak include burned rock hearths and mortar holes that have been worn into the exposed bedrock of the site. Some of the mortar holes have been ground to a depth of 30 centimeters or 12 inches, suggesting repeated use of them over a long period of time. They may have been used with wooden manos to grind plant food, such as cactus fruit, or pound mesquite pods into meal, since metates are less suitable for these tasks. An additional area of note at Squaw Peak is an outcropping of Salmon Peak. This area has no cultural features, but its surface is covered with fine-grained chert nodules and flake debris. It was most likely used as a lithic procurement and initial stage knapping area, knapping K-N-A-P, so like flint knapping, by the people who visited the site. According to archaeologist Michael Collins, who surveyed the site in the 1980s prior to the proposed construction of oil rig roads in the area, use of this quarry goes back to the late Archaic period, if not further, based on several Shumla projectile points that he recovered during his investigation. So that's kind of cool. Surveyors working with Collins remapped the features recorded by Young and Bilyeu using digital transits and found that the site map from 1981 TxDOT report did not accurately depict their locations. Unfortunately, the company sponsoring the later survey went bankrupt because the transit data was not saved. A revised map could not be made. Without an accurate site map of Squaw Peak, it is impossible to determine the relationship of the site's features to one another. So the chronology of features at Squaw Peak is also difficult to determine. The largest burned rock midden was the focus of the 1974 excavation and is the only area on the site that has been radiocarbon dated. The midpoints of the date taken from the area around the midden range from AD 900 to about 1530, and the midden itself dates to approximately AD 1300. No ceramics were found that could help date the site's features, but one Langtree dart point, one Montel dart point, one Inzer dart point, and several unclassified arrow points were recovered from the Wickiup and Teepee rings. The middens produced one Pandale dart point, one Uvalde dart point, one Valverde dart point, two Langtree dart points, two Inzer dart points, one Frio dart point, one Paisano dart point, four unclassified, two Livermore arrow points, three Purdy's arrow points, and two unclassified arrow points. So basically, when you're talking about flint knapping and stuff, different tribes, different groups used kind of different styles of arrow points or dart points. And so that's how they can kind of classify them. So these projectile points date to the site's features to the early or middle Archaic, late Archaic, and late prehistoric periods. However, most of them appear to come from the secondary contacts as a result of animal activity and sheet wash over the site, making it difficult to determine what time period each feature belongs to and which, if any, are contemporaneous. Because the investigations of Squaw Peak have been so limited, few artifacts have been collected from the site. Other than the previously mentioned projectile points, only one arrow point preform 68 bifaces, 91 scrapers, 73 cores, 67 modified flakes, 6,170 unmodified flakes, 1 polished stone, 1 limestone abrader, 1 incised stone pendant, and 1 shell pendant were recovered. So that's still a lot of artifacts. So plant and animal remains are equally sparse. The 1974 excavation produced no plant remains and only 7 identifiable bones belonging to white-tailed deer, domestic goat, Mexican ground squirrel, and raccoon. It is not clear which, if any of these animals, were consumed by the prehistoric visitors to the site. Subsequent investigations yielded no additional clues about the diet of the people of Squaw Teep Peak, leaving this topic open for speculation. The burned rock middens make a strong case for the consumption of lechuguilla and sotol, and the mortar holes suggest that mesquite beans, tunas, and other plant foods that require grinding were consumed. Various species of edible grasses are also available in the area, as well as rabbit and hare. Though it is unclear when earth ovens were used and wickiup teepees were built at Squaw Teep Peak, the site must have been an attractive place for the prehistoric people of the eastern Trans-Pecos, who returned to it for thousands of years to harvest its resources. Very little work has been done at Squaw Teep Peak, and Collins and other researchers believe that there is potential for added data recovery at this significant site that could help shed light on how its people lived. And again, I did laugh. I remember this was over 20 years ago when I was out there working in West Texas. That was in my district, which was the Permian Basin District. And I do remember telling my wife about seeing this kind of mountain that looked like a boob, basically. And of course, you know, she, as most wives do, just thought I was a pig. And I don't know that she ever saw it. So it is what it is. But yeah, it was just funny seeing that people had taken pictures of it and posted on this Texas back roads. And there you are on I-10. I mean, I-10 heading east or west, you know, towards San Antonio or towards El Paso and places beyond. And you see this mountain and it just, I mean, other than the fact that it looks like a breast and nipple, you just don't really know that it has any significance. And here we go. But the whole thing did make me laugh because we do go up to the Wichita Mountains in Oklahoma often. And just south of Lawton, there is a boob-shaped building with a vent on top that looks like a boiled nipple. So I have always joked with my wife and my kids, yes, I don't really hold much back from them, that you have to rub the nipple as you go by for good luck. And, you know, we always make a big joke out of it. My oldest daughter informed me that the nipple is now missing. Might have been from a storm or something like that. But it is just this big round building with a vent in the center of the top. And so, anyway, sad days for sure. We may not be rubbing the nipple for good luck anymore as we go to the Wichita Mountains. However, that's just a building that was built probably back in the 80s or 90s and probably has no historical significance other than my own meandering laughter. So there you go. Squaw Teep Peak, also known as Nipple Mountain, Nipple Peak, close to Bakersfield, Texas, which is now a ghost town. So next we're going to move to an interesting one. It's called Nameless, Texas. And I saw something, I think on Facebook about it, and I thought, well, I'm going to look into it. And I found a more in-depth article on backroadstexas.net, which is actually kind of a fun website, I might add. It is, in fact, a vacation home rental site for that area, but they do have a blog. So I checked it out, and they have stuff on there about Nameless, Texas. Anyway, here's what the blog says, and I want to give them credit. Again, that is backroadstexas.net. All right. So about 5 miles northeast of Lago Vista and 3 north of Jonestown, you'll find remnants of an interesting hill country ghost town, Nameless, Texas, never reached even 100 residents, and its overall history is fairly ordinary, but at the heart of its history is one of the most frustrating examples of governmental bureaucracy you'll find anywhere. That's the part that made me laugh. Because as you guys know, I'm getting involved more with city council and city government here in Wichita Falls, just kind of paying attention and not seeking office by any stretch of the imagination, just being a good, concerned citizen. So to get started on this, we need to time travel back to 1869. At that time, traveling in North Travis County was a challenge. This is kind of around Austin. The terrain was hilly, rough, and bumpy on a good day and made travel between towns something the average person would put off until absolutely necessary. Nonetheless, a handful of settlers put down roots here and with a burst of civic pride, named their new community Fairview. That's right. And remember, in 1869, this was far West Texas. This was on the edge of the wild, basically. So all was well in Fairview until its citizens decided to establish a post office, because why not? That's what we do. Mail was of critical importance to Americans at the time, when there was no other means of getting information, whether it be news of national events or the arrival of your sister's baby in Tennessee. The mail was a critical life link to the rest of the world, and the folks of Fairview wanted a post office close by so they didn't have to make a teeth-rattling trip in a wagon over jagged limestone to get their mail. No big deal, they thought. We'll petition to the United States Postal Service for our own post office, as countless towns had successfully done over the previous years. When you had a post office, you were official in the eyes of the federal government. You were, in fact, somebody. At some point in the mid-1870s, they sent their request to Washington for their own post office, Fairview, Texas. No can do, they were told. In order to get a post office with a place name, said name could not be already taken in that state or territory. There was already a Fairview, Texas with the post office, and there still is. It's a northwestern suburb of Dallas. Well, shoot. The Fairview citizens thought, we'll just try again. How about Cross Creek? Nope, came the reply. There's already one in Texas. It's gone now, but it was near modern-day Fulshear, which is west of Houston. So the folks of Fairview and or Cross Creek had to try yet again. Over the next couple of years, they would petition the Postal Service again and again. A total of 6 town names were rejected. However, there's not a list that I can find anywhere anymore. In frustration, the town shot off an angry missive to the folks in Washington. Let the post office be nameless and be damned. That name was accepted. The U.S. Postal Service officially registered the town of Nameless, Texas in 1880. Whatever success the locals could draw from this was short-lived, as the Nameless post office shut its doors just 10 years later in 1890, and mail service moved to Leander, which was just a couple of miles east. All that's left of Little Nameless is a graveyard and a fully renovated Nameless schoolhouse, which served until 1945. It sits proudly on the Nameless Road west of Leander, and its steps used to serve the patrons of the infamous post office. That sounds like such a good story too. Like, people just get tired of some of the BS that goes on in government, and they just say, you know what, screw it. Let it be nameless then. and the U.S. Postal Service just goes, well, all right, we'll just name it Nameless. And it sticks. Like, I don't get it. It's too funny. Last but not least, we're talking about one of the largest things in Texas, or at least a claim to the largest thing. It's actually the largest pool in the world, or at least it was at the time. I saw some photos of the pool on Facebook and did a little more research, and it landed me at texasce.org website. That's Texas CE, and it gave me more information. And this is what it says. The Corsicana Daily Sun, in its publication of April 13, 1921, published an article titled, "Cisco Will Have a Great Lake Soon." The report stated that the excavation work was over half done on the $1 million dam. It described the dam's construction as being poured from two great towers. The height of the dam was 152 feet, and it took more than 4,000 carloads of material, including 2 million pounds of reinforcing steel and 65,000 barrels of cement to finish. The dam would provide a reservoir with an average depth of 30 feet up to 85 feet at its deepest point. The dam is 1,060 feet long and has a spillway that measures 270 feet. The dam is an Amberson-type slab buttress dam, a thin slab dam that minimizes the need for material. The Missouri-Kansas-Texas system built a railroad line to supply the construction site with equipment and items. The dam designers noted that the data collected was incomplete and unreliable. They thought that the dam was located so far inland that the dam would be able to withstand the most significant flood. The dam would provide the then growing city of Cisco with a population at that time of 6,000 with a reliable water supply, which is important, something we still talk about today, even here in Wichita Falls. They're talking about Lake Ringgold still, which I think the discussion of Lake Ringgold started like in the 50s or 60s. I could be wrong, but it is a point of contention here and to people out in Clay County, where I grew up. The city advertised itself as a city of progress and the gate city of the West. The newspaper also stated that the dam was supposed to be complete within 1921 and the lake to fill shortly afterwards. Other construction included building a country club, golf course, and summer homes for businessmen from Dallas, Houston, and Cisco, of course. Frank W. Chappell of Elrod Engineering Company of Dallas, chief design engineer, and E.M. Urban, superintendent of construction for the F. Friedstedt Company Contractors of Chicago, wrote an article published in Engineering News Record on November 1st, 1923. Elrod Engineering Company was the city of Cisco engineer and prepared the dam's plans. The main issue for the dam's construction was building a 4-mile railway because there needed to be a way to transport materials to the dam site. The railway crossed 3 streams, so wooden bridges were built over them to finish the path to the dam site. Buildings for headquarters, cottages for the foremen with families, a mess hall, a bunkhouse, to accommodate 200 workers were also built, and the accommodations did have water, electricity, and showers. However, as in some construction projects, the schedule was optimistic as always, and the dam was not completed until 1923, several years later, and the dam was dedicated on July 4th, 1925. A gala was held with an estimated 10,000 visitors. The dam was hailed as the largest concrete structure of its kind. The first speedboat races were held in West Texas, were part of the celebration. With a more reliable water supply, the city built the largest concrete swimming pool in the world, which, from what I can tell, was actually just below the dam. So the dam would actually feed the water to the swimming pool. The pool provided a shallow and deep end where diving could be done. The pool had a slide, walkway, and was quite extravagant for the time. And if you get on and look at pictures, holy smoke, this was a heck of a deal. The pool was located downstream of the dam, so the water was provided easily, and fish were allowed into the pool so swimmers could experience a more natural environment. The dam was also open, providing public tours of the hollow dam. A road, Country Club Road, also called CR 561, on top of the dam provided a way to cross Sandy Creek. Missouri, Kansas, and Texas Railroad obtained a court injunction to reduce the functional lake level due to the backwater from the lake damaging its roadbed soon after the lake began to operate. The dam was so much a part of the community that the high school team was nicknamed the Big Dam Lobos. With a cost of all the building and economy, the 1929 crash, the city of Cisco struggled. Today, Cisco Dam is 100 years old and known as Williamson Dam. The lake provides 25,895 acre-feet of storage and recreational opportunities in the area. The remnants of the pool and cottages can be seen today on both aerial images and on the ground. Cisco Dam has survived several floods and is still in operation, providing the area with a water supply. If you get a chance to get online and look at some photos, it is absolutely worth it. This pool was huge, and one of the photos even shows, best I can tell, a 40-foot diving tower with people diving off of it. That's just insane. It was just insanely cool for the area. So there you go. What do y'all think? Let me know what other weird, off-the-wall, or interesting Texas history you'd like to hear about. I want to thank our sponsors again, me and Victory Home Loans. Keep in mind, if you know someone moving to or in Texas or Oklahoma, send them my way to themichaelmitchell.com, THE michaelmitchell.com. Thank y'all for cutting me some slack for being MIA the last 2 weeks. And of course, thank you for tuning in to Once Upon a Time in Texas. As always, remember the stars at night are big and bright, deep in the heart of Texas. Y'all have a great week.